This is Open Mic, and today I've decided to have a show, a solo show, because there are a number of areas which I want to focus upon, and I don't think it's quite right when I have a host for me to dominate the show, because that's not my modus operandi. And I'm going to get to the gist of what I want to discuss today immediately. There are several areas, as I said. The first area I'm going to talk about is the water situation on the island. I read on the Voice newspaper recently, a couple of days ago, I was away for about a week, that they have run into some snags at the dam as far as the contractors and the financing is concerned for dredging the dam. For one, I'm fully aware of the fact that as a St. Lucian and a business person on island, especially in the hotel business, the water situation is most important. But you know, in life, they said that it's a blessing in disguise when certain things happen. And I'm not saying that eventually the dam may not be dredged or should not be dredged, but sometimes when we have time to reflect, we really consider the reasons why we have these obstacles. And when one considers that 2/3 of the dam is already filled with silt, and all it takes is one heavy downpour, and there comes the silt again. So it seems like an ongoing exercise. But by the same token, we have to realize that the John Compton Dam has been a plus to St. Lucia. The other downside to the dam is its location. Even when you have a casualty somewhere between the capital and the dam, and the line is going down, it gets damaged, the island is in trouble. For the last 15 years, I have indicated to the various agencies controlling the water situation that in the Union area there is indeed a very strong spring. I first noticed that some 15, 16 years ago, when a contractor, or developer should I say, was searching for rocks. They were pumping approximately 8,000 gallons a minute out of this spring to be able to get to the rock. And that went on and on and on. Well, today, the contractor is gone. All works have stopped in the Union area. But the contractor has left behind a well, so to speak, approximately 150 feet deep, 1,500 feet wide, by 2,000 feet long. And you will see a picture of it yourself on the screen. And this spring has filled this well with water. By my calculation, we have approximately 2.5 billion gallons of water sitting there, beautiful fresh water, and it continues to rise. It has never gone down because you have a certain amount of evaporation. And when one considers that there is a main water line passing not more than a couple hundred yards away, where this water can be tapped into the main line, and it would appear that the only problem with the water is a bit high on the iron content, which can be addressed. One wonders why, after 15 years, that someone hasn't seen it fit to tap that well and bring it into the mainstream as a backup. Granted that this well alone cannot feed the island, but every little bit helps. And who knows that once the works have started there, they may be able to find and explore the spring further, and the capacity could be increased. So I send this message out to the water company and the powers that be to kindly revisit what's going on there, simply because it's going to be like $100 million to desilt the dam, and I'm quite sure that for a few $1,000,000 we could tap that resource. The second bit of advice which I have to offer is that when I was chairman of the National Development Corporation some 18 years ago, I brought in a company from Trinidad to do an aerial survey. And right outside Cap Estate, the company discovered that there is brackish water there. And they were willing to come to St. Lucia and drill the area where the water was noticed. And if there was no water, the company would not charge. Now, desalinating brackish water is quite a simple process, unlike salt water, which is a very hard process based on the amount of salt in the water. And one should take into consideration that most of our hotels are up north. So if one has to run lines from that area, it would not be that costly. Plus the fact there are lines in place already which can be used, and the hotels can be guaranteed without having to pay astronomical prices to truck water when we have shortages. Thirdly, I went to a meeting arranged by WASCO some 2 years ago, and if I'm not mistaken, I think the German government offered some 300,000 euros to do some explorations and render assistance to the water company. And I attended that meeting, and I distinctly recall making what I consider a valuable contribution, where WASCO could use those funds and through the German agency get about 6 or 10 tanks. They are made away in the UK, elsewhere, with 1 million gallons each. So 8 million gallons. Take an acre of land, anywhere up north, we have lots of land, and install those tanks, and in the wet season, we can have them filled. So if there's a problem, we have a backup for at least 4 or 5 days for the people up north and also the hotels. So I send out these bits of advice to WASCO and to the government of St. Lucia to please reconsider the advice which I'm giving today, because it's indeed very valuable. And there's a major cost saving, to put it lightly. That having been said, I want to focus on another area of concern. Some 4 days ago, the Chamber of Commerce had a meeting at their office, and most of the stakeholders involved for the dreadful situation that's taking place in Castries now, which is the number of vagrants on the streets. It was a welcome meeting. Thank you so much, Mr. Luisi, for putting such a formidable team together. And thank you for all the stakeholders who also contributed significantly. The problem that we've been having is that those vagrants are growing more and more boisterous in their attitudes. And we've had a number of complaints from the customers going to the supermarkets and the other businesses, where if a customer decides not to give them a tip, they actually insult them. Some of them have become aggressive. And it has taken a very long time. And as the proprietor of 3 shopping centers, I have had my share of difficulties with that problem. It was most interesting, fascinating, and an eye-opener to learn what goes on within the ministries. It would appear that some 60 to 70 of those vagrants move in and out of the wellness center because there's insufficient space to keep them on a lengthy period, and it is a bit of a problem. So one of the areas that was discussed is the fact that we have what we call the Cornerstone and we have the St. Lucie home, and both of them are filled to capacity. And I think it is time that this administration revisits what is going on, because this is a very troubling situation. I'm one who does not believe in reinventing the wheel. Consequently, I feel it is important that the business community and the government and the various stakeholders get into discussions with the St. Lucie home and Cornerstone, because they have the expertise already. Instead of building a new place, create additional space, get some more people so we can address those folks. Another area which was most worrying is the fact that one particular individual who's a vagrant / trespasser has become so aggressive in what he's doing that at all the shopping centers that gentleman was known. And we've asked the police if they could just look at this individual, because this is just a matter of time before something drastic happens at one of the shopping areas. I also learned from various shop owners that when a customer drives up and sees a particular individual or individuals around, they turn around and do not come to the shopping area because of fear. This is a signal which we must address. And having had a meeting and discussed the matter, I sincerely trust that whoever's listening to this show today that feels they have a contribution to make, they should undoubtedly come along, offer their advice, and let us all get together and do something about it, because it's not a very happy situation. One way that we can actually be quite forceful, because everybody has their rights, their human rights. So even though one is a vagrant and the families don't want them, there should be some sound legislation in place that gives the police the authority to take these people off the premises, because the security measures we have are not equipped to go that far. We can have a discussion with a vagrant and peacefully ask them to leave the premises. But I learned something new from the police, and that is, with the proper signage on the buildings, anybody within that area can actually be moved out without any question. But we really don't want to go that far. I make that point today concerning the vagrants and others. Look at the gentleman who got killed on his wheelchair. Most St. Lucians phoned for years that something should be done. Okay, I know the state has its problems, but by and large, some sort of organization should have got together to provide a small home for this gentleman instead of allowing him to be on that freeway. It was only a question of time before a serious casualty took place, and it did. And the underprivileged in this country, they have a right like everybody else. I mean, one doesn't know from one day to the next where we'll be. Why did that meeting? I learned a lot, because it was brought to the attention of the stakeholders that individuals who have worked hard and built a home, and for some rhyme or reason a fire next door, their house gets burned down, no funds at all. Yeah. It was proposed at the meeting that a fire extinguisher should be given or provided to those individuals to help them in case there's a problem. And that is why I say it was such an important meeting and an eye-opener. On that score, we have just come to the end of the first segment of our program. We'll be right back.